Welcome to Focus on Family Living Expenses. In this video, you will learn how to identify cost of living expenses and develop a family budget. Upon completion of this training, you will be able to list and classify the various components of family living expenses, including housing, food, utilities, insurance, and more, to ensure comprehensive financial planning. Distinguish and allocate costs between farm business expenses and family living expenses, utilizing percentage-based estimations for shared resources. Apply various techniques, such as reviewing bank statements and maintaining separate bank accounts to track and estimate annual family living expenses. And use spending apps, engage family members in financial discussions, track spending habits, and maintain a budget to manage and potentially reduce family living costs. Cost of family living is the amount of money it takes to support your family's expenses each year. It's common to underestimate the true cost of family living, but accurately and intentionally calculating your family's needs are crucial to the financial success of both your family and your farm. While the standard of living on farms has become more closely aligned with that of non-farm families, the nature of cash flow on many farms makes budgeting more complicated. This means traditional family budgeting tools may not always be the best option for farm families. The demands of the farm and the requirements of the family and home often compete for priority. Maintaining transparent conversations about the expenses associated with managing a household and outlining expectations for potential repairs or unforeseen costs can prevent a multitude of complications in the future. The first step is to understand what kind of expenses should be included when calculating your cost of family living. You need to include housing, food, including restaurants, utilities for the home, vehicles and maintenance, life, auto, and home insurance, health insurance and healthcare costs, clothing and personal items, home repairs, gifts and donations, education and extracurricular fees, recreation and entertainment, technology and associated services, and miscellaneous expenses. There can be overlap between farm and family expenses. Determining the cost of family living can indeed be challenging, especially if you haven't maintained separate checking accounts for farm and family expenses. It is common for family living costs to appear as if they are covered by the farm as a business expense. For example, a home may be rolled into the farm mortgage or a vehicle may be labeled as a farm truck. Identifying and appropriately accounting for these intertwined expenses isn't always straightforward. How do you do it? The most practical approach to dividing costs between farm and family living expenses is to estimate a percentage of the total cost. For example, if you drive your truck 15% of the time for personal reasons, then 15% of the truck's associated costs, such as fuel, maintenance, and insurance, should be allocated to your family living costs. This method can be applied to various shared resources to gain a more accurate representation of your expenses. It can be tough to accurately split costs between farm and family living expenses, but it's crucial not to overlook these components. Over time, they add up and make a significant impact. On an annual basis, the average family spends $30,000 per adult and an additional $12,000 per child. But just like your farm, your family's needs and expectations for living standards will be unique to you. Any major additional expenses, such as daycare, college tuition, or an unexpected medical bill should be considered when calculating an accurate cost of your family's living expenses. If you are uncertain about estimating your family's annual spending, there are a few methods to help you forecast your family costs. One method is to review last year's bank statements. While reviewing bank statements is a tedious task, technology allows us to look back at our exact spending habits and see where every dime went. If you're making purchases via a third-party payment app like PayPal or Venmo, be sure to track those records as well. Using a lot of cash? You may want to opt for one of the other methods if you don't have good receipts. It can be extremely difficult to get an accurate number from memory. Another method is to keep separate bank accounts. If you haven't already separated your farm expenses from your personal or family expenses with distinct bank accounts, it's a good idea to start by opening a free account. Begin by estimating your family living costs for a month and deposit that amount into the family account monthly. Try to use this account solely for family expenses and refrain from using your farm account for anything not related to the farm. This method will help you effectively manage and track your separate expenses. After a few weeks, take some time to reflect on your actual spending. Have you had to deposit more money into the account than anticipated? This comparison will help you gauge if your original estimate was accurate or if you need to adjust your budget to better match your actual spending habits. While it may take some time to establish an accurate average, after about 3 to 6 months, you should have a solid understanding of your family living costs based on the spending activity in this dedicated family account. This approach will provide you with a realistic assessment of your family's financial needs. Let's look at a few final tips to help you make better on-farm decisions. Tip 1 is to use spending apps. There are numerous apps available that can help you track spending across categories. They can alert you when you've exceeded your budget or when there is unusual activity in a particular category. A quick online search will provide you with a list of such apps, along with their advantages and disadvantages. Tip 2 is to engage others. Having insights into your family's spending habits equips you to manage your expenditures more effectively. Have a conversation with your family members to determine which costs are desires rather than necessities. Tip 3 is to track your spending habits. If you need to reduce your cost of family living expenses, understanding your spending habits allows you to identify areas where cutbacks can be easily made. This also helps in monitoring your budget throughout the year. Tip 4 is to have a budget. Maintaining a budget prepares you for unexpected expenses. If an unanticipated bill arises, you'll be better equipped to decide how to cover it. Now let's check to see what you've learned. What is one of the key categories that should be included when calculating your family's cost of living? Housing is a major component of family living expenses and should be included in any comprehensive financial plan. Why is it crucial to differentiate between farm-related and family-related expenses? By distinguishing these expenses, you can better manage your finances and ensure that the farm's resources are not unintentionally drained by family living costs. Which method is recommended for tracking and forecasting family living costs? Opening a separate account is one of the most effective ways to clearly differentiate and manage your family living costs, making tracking and forecasting much easier. How can using spending apps and engaging family members in financial discussions help manage family living expenses? These tools and discussions help families understand where their money is going and allow them to make informed decisions to reduce unnecessary expenses. In Focus on Family Living Expenses, you learned how to accurately calculate and manage your family's living expenses with a particular focus on the unique challenges faced by farm families. You learned about strategies for distinguishing between farm-related and family-related expenses, ensuring that both personal and business finances are properly managed. With this information and the tools we discussed, you should understand how to prepare a family budget and identify your cost of family living expenses. With this information and the tools were discussed, you should understand how to prepare a family budget and identify your cost of family living expenses.